Well, hello everybody. So I had a pretty good morning out on the lake today. I fished about 5 hours, maybe a little over 5 hours, and I pulled crankbaits. And first time I pulled crankbaits this year. If you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun. It's not the most kid-friendly way to fish because you're dealing with treble hooks, but if you're going and you want to try it with kids, you could do it with some small rods, as long as they're stiff. You can't use flimsy rods; they've got to be fairly stiff. But anyway, had a pretty good day out there, and I want to tell you a little bit about some techniques that'll help you if you try to do some crankbait pulling. It's no different than long lining, just the same way we put our jigs out the back for long lining when you're crappie fishing. There's really no difference as far as your layout, but there are a few tricks. If you watch the video that I had today, you'll see a couple of things that I've learned from other people, but pretty basic concept. You just cast them out and you just move along. The reason I like to do it when I can do it, and again, today is April 22nd, so this is kind of early. Usually I'm closer to May. Usually I'm in May before I'm doing it, but the water temperature was almost 70 this morning, so I thought, well, I'll just try it, and it did pretty good. All the fish that I caught, I wound up catching 13 crappie and 5 white perch, and then a couple of bass. But all the crappie that I caught were keeper size. They were legal keepers, and most of them hit pretty aggressively. Not all of them, but most of them were pretty aggressive strikes. And I didn't find any that had eggs. We're past the April full moon already, and so all the ones that I caught today, if they were females, they had already laid out, which is good. That's a good thing. I have not been keeping fish. I've been trying to put the fish back and let them lay. I've got half a dozen bags of fillets in the freezer, so I've got enough for a few messes if I want to eat for my family. But if you try to go out and do this, pulling crankbaits, here are some things you need to know. Whenever you pull jigs, okay, when you're long lining jigs, if you turn the boat, let's say that we're going to turn the boat to the right. We're going to make a right hand turn, okay? When you do that, what happens is the outside of your turn, in other words, if you're turning the front of the boat to the right, then this left side of your boat, that would be your fast part of the curve. And when you're pulling jigs, the outside of that curve, the outside of the turn, those jigs will move faster, and therefore they will come up in the water column. They'll run shallower during the turn, okay? And the jigs in the inside part of your curve, okay, those jigs, they'll have some slack. So because of the weight of the jig, they will sink down. All right. Now, if you're pulling sinking crankbaits, like something like a rattle trap or something like that, it works exactly the same way. Okay. Because ideally, you're not going to be going in a perfectly straight line. You're going to make some turns. So you need to think about, if you're pulling something that's sinking, all right, it's naturally sinking, whenever you make a turn, okay, if you turn left, turn right, it doesn't matter. Whenever you make a turn, the direction that you're turning is, you're going to have that inside part. Those are going to get slower and sink. And on the outside, they're going to get faster and come up shallow. All right? Why is that important? Well, it's important because when you pull crankbaits that are not sinking crankbaits, if you pull a regular crankbait that is a floater, like this one, okay, when you're pulling these, the more speed you have, the deeper this dives. It's just the opposite, okay? If I'm pulling jigs, the slower I go, the more the jig sinks. The weight drops down when you're going slower. Not so with crankbaits. When you're pulling these crankbaits, because of the lip, okay, and the buoyancy of the crankbait, that lip is driving it down the faster you travel, to a degree. You know, if you go too fast, faster than it can handle, it won't run correctly. All right, so that's one of the reasons that I really like pulling crankbaits is, you know, you can start out twice the speed of what you normally pull jigs. When I'm pulling jigs, I usually have my best success running 0.7, 0.8, somewhere in there. But on crankbaits, pulling these crankbaits, I start at 1.5. That's twice what I'm running pulling jigs. And then if I need to slow down, I'll go to 1.4. If I need to speed up, I'll speed up. All right, so what happens is when you make a turn pulling these guys, all right, you have to think about this. It's going to be exactly the opposite of when you're pulling jigs. The reason why is, as I said, the faster you pull, the deeper this booger goes. So when you make that turn, same example I used earlier, if you make a right-hand turn, okay, these crankbaits are behind you, you make a turn to the right, okay, the outside, the ones on the outside of the curve, okay, they're going to pick up speed. But when they pick up speed, what that does is that drives them down further. They go deeper. It's the opposite of a jig. All right? And the ones on the inside, okay, the ones on the inside, they're going to lose speed. Well, what happens when they lose speed? This lure floats. So when it loses speed, it's going to come up in the water column. It's exactly the opposite of the jigs. And you need to know that, and you need to keep it in mind, because let's say you're going down, let's say you're following a topo line, or you're following a channel, an edge, a ledge, or a bank, or anything, and you're following a line, and you're in a certain depth of water. And let's say you come along, let's say the bank is over here, and you're coming along the bank, all right? And there's a point that comes out, and it shallows up. Well, if you don't plan it right, if you don't make that gradual turn and you get up there too close, and all of a sudden you need to turn quickly, when you make that turn to try and avoid that super shallow area, when you make that turn, if you didn't plan ahead, what happens is you make the turn, and if you don't slow your trolling motor down, if you just have the same constant speed, when you turn, it's going to drive this thing down, and you're going to get hung. You're going to drag bottom or hit brush or something. And which, you know, you're going to, with these treble hooks, you're going to get hung from time to time anyway. And that's another video for another time about retrieving lures. But I'm just saying, you got to watch your chart plotter. I usually, when I'm pulling jigs or crankbaits, I usually do a combo screen where I've got, you know, my down view on one side, and I've got my map on the other side, and I can watch the contour lines. I have mine set with the color shading on them, so I can kind of stay in the same depth range if I pay attention. But anyway, when you make a turn, remember, whichever way you're turning, the opposite side or the outside of that turn, those crankbaits are going to be driven down. So if you're running along and this guy if this guy's running down 8 to 10 feet deep already, okay, and then you're running in 20 feet of water, he's halfway down the water column, and then all of a sudden you coming up on a place and it shallows up, and then you make that turn, okay? When you make that turn, the one side of these guys, they're gonna go even deeper. So you might say, oh no, I went from 20 feet to 16 real quick, and you turn and turn, and then this guy's driving down to 12 to 14 or whatever, and you run into things. You have issues. So you got to pay attention. You got to figure it out. Now, you're going to have people that's going to swear by certain ones of these. Some people's going to swear by crankbaits that aren't even made anymore. Some people are going to swear by the custom crankbaits. It's just pretty much trial and error. You're going to have to just find some and try them out. Try the different lengths. See what's a good, profile for your lake. I've got several different ones. A lot of people like Normans. A lot of people like some of the Jinkos. People like, there's all kind of custom made companies. Some of the Bombers. There's so many different ones. I know my mind's going crazy on me, but I try to get some that I'll try to watch, and when they put the ones that I'm interested in on sale, that's when I get them. This one here is a Berkeley, and all it is a flicker shad, and they're different, make different lengths of them, and it's trial and error. You're just gonna have to see what works for you, what runs a good depth, and all that stuff. I'll put, sometimes I'll put 4 rods out and put a different size, different style, whatever, on each rod, and just see what's going on. Just like you do with jigs. Colors, I don't know. It's hard to know. Sometimes you get one and all they want is something with a green. Sometimes they want something that looks like a shad. Sometimes they want something that's a yellow. I do this sometimes. I will. This is another little handy thing that I do. I take like my yellow ones and my reddish ones, and I try to put those on the bank side. And then I take my sort of, translucent colors, my whites, my silvers, my shad colors that look more like shad. I run them usually on the deeper side. That's just, I don't know. I just do that because I figure maybe the bright reds or yellows might look kind of like a small brim, or look like kind of like part of a crawfish or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? I haven't done it enough to say anything is certain, but it's a fun way to fish. It's you can cover a lot of water. You can fish when the wind is more than you want to deal with, pulling jigs. You can fish when there's boat traffic, jet skis and all that. You can keep right on rolling. You're running, pretty fast. So it's a good way to go. It's a lot of fun. And you got to think about it. People have been trolling plugs, as we used to call them, but cranks and stuff. People have been trolling these things for walleyes for years, So, and now they've been trolling them for crappie for many years too. Now it's pretty specialized, and there are guys that know a lot more about how to do it than I do. I'm just relatively a rookie at it, but it's a fun thing to do. Now, when you get when you have one hit and you take the rod out of the rod holder, ideally what you want to do is raise the rod up, keep the rod pretty high. And a lot of times if you do that as you're coming in, now some people wind real fast. I'm just sort of medium, I guess, but as you're winding in, if you'll raise that rod up high, a lot of times the crappie will come to the top, and you can ski them in on their side. They'll just come right up to the top and surrender, and and that's pretty cool. The bass will usually try to run down or maybe sideways and shake their head. They shake their head a lot. Catfish, they're out to do anything. Uh, if they get a chance, they'll spin, you know, but they're gonna do that no matter what you hook them with. And then if you in a lake that has white bass or white perch, they just go crazy. You know, they may run. You may cross all your lines with them. You never know what they're gonna be. I have caught some hybrids and some stripers doing this. Small ones, not any. I haven't caught any giants, but I have had a couple fish actually break my line. I pull 8-pound mono. I'm a mono guy. Whenever I'm fishing with jigs, long lining jigs, I'm pulling 4 pounds. That's all, pretty much all I use, you know, for the most part, pulling jigs. But when I'm pulling cranks, I like to pull 8 pounds. I've got some spinning rods that are set up, medium action rods, they're bass rods. And I've got some low end bait casting type rods that are medium action also. I don't want medium heavy, you know, I'm not trying to target big catfish and big stripers. You know, that may happen. I don't want anything lighter than a medium because you get too much. If the rod's too flimsy and you have too much action in the rod tip and all that, you know, it's just constantly shaking and shaking and shaking around, and it's just, I've got T-bars, so you got these rods shaking, they're all shaking each other, and you know, I don't like that. I like what I got. So basically, I just got some old, decent, you know, entry-level bass rods, for lack of a better term, that, you know, that I would fish for spotted bass or whatever. And I've just kind of put some snap swivels on there. I do like a swivel. Some people say no, you know, whatever, that's fine. But I do like a swivel. I've got a swivel. I think mine are number 12s, I believe. And it's worked out pretty good for me. I had a good year last year pulling crankbaits well into the summer. And I didn't really pull them in the fall, but I'm going to this year. So I would say I will probably pull crankbaits from now, definitely through Memorial Day. Maybe even into June some, you know. The super hot dog days, July and August, maybe not so much. But when you get into late summer and get into the fall and they start transitioning again, moving again, I will go right back to pulling these. I wish I could remember all the other brands to throw at you, but maybe I'll put a link on there for different ones. I don't know. I just try to shop when I can get a deal, get some sales, and you will lose them. You may want a lure retriever. I've got one. I don't like the dropper style that you put on your line and it drops down like a piece of weighted lead to knock it off. It's a knocker. I haven't had much good luck with that. What I have is actually a telescopic rod, a pole. I don't know what the length is, maybe 10 feet, or you know, maybe more. I'm not sure. It's about 3 or 4 sections, and it's got the little spiral thing on the end of it, and so you spiral it around your line, and then you hold the line in your hand as you work the rod down and kind of grab the lure with it. I like it better than the other way, but people that know how to use the knocker style, they're good with them too. So, but you're probably gonna need one if you fish where there's a lot of brush piles and stuff. But the main lake that I fish close to my house here in South Carolina is Lake Wiley, and Lake Wiley has no natural structure per se. Pretty much all the structure in there is somebody's brush piles or whatever. It's just a dammed up stretch of river, mud bottom, you know, a few little shell beds, and everything else is just man-made brush piles pretty much. It's not like it's full of cut timber and things like that. So it's ideal for pulling crankbaits. I mean, it's ideal. You can pull river channel ledges. You can pull creek channels. You can pull down rows of docks or whatever. You know, if you pay attention and you don't do anything really stupid as far as, you know, not watching your depths. As long as you keep an eye on your depths and everything, you can figure it out. And worst case scenario, if you pulling along and you look up and all of a sudden you've gotten in too shallow of a place, you can always back down the speed of the motor, okay? Because when you slow down, the buoyancy of these is going to let them come up in the water column, okay? If you get a rod hung all of a sudden, or another rod hung, you know, you can even stop your trolling motor. You can turn it off. Where if you did that pulling jigs, all the jigs would fall in and they're all wind up getting hung. But if you get in a place and you say, oh no, I've ran over a big field of stumps or something, okay, you can shut the trolling motor down, and the floating crankbaits here that haven't gotten hung as of yet, they'll start floating to the top, and then you can deal with the one that's the problem. So it's a fun way to go. If you go and you go with kids, I would advise that you use some maybe a spin cast type rod and reel combo. You know, the things we grew up on, like the old Zebco 33s or whatever, a lot of those, when you bought them, they were spooled with 10-pound line, even back in the day. But something like that. I even have some short rods that are, I don't know how long they are. They can't be more than 4.5 feet probably. And my granddaughters use those. But you just got to be careful that you don't get too many people in the boat and everybody slinging, you know, all these treble hooks around. You know, unless you want to do a little redneck surgery out there. So there is a little more danger with this than there is pulling jigs, obviously. But it's a lot of fun, and trust me, when they get one on, you got to realize you're traveling, you know, 1.5 miles, okay? So you're traveling twice the speed of when you're trolling with your jigs. Trust me, they're gonna feel like they got a giant on every time. And so it's good. It's good, but get out there and try it. You got to try it. And it's like everything else. It's trial and error. Get out there and catch you some. And you know, if you think of something that I forgot, send me a comment. If you watch my latest video, which again I have not done too well this year. This has been kind of an off year for me. Seemed like I knew how to catch them before I started filming myself. Now I have no idea what I'm doing. But if you saw my video, you'll see me give credit to Mike Baker for some of his tricks and his tips. Mike Baker is a well-known, he was a professional tournament fisherman and all that. He's out of Missouri, but if you get a chance, watch his stuff on YouTube, Mike Baker videos. He's big time, and he's got really good helpful tips and about setup and how to place your rods and things like that. So anyway, pull some crankbaits. I think you'll like it.